Welcome Taurus to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 1st of April for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. On the screen now I'm sharing the event chart. First of all, we need to be mindful of your ruler. Venus is in House 11. House 11 is very much to do with our connections to others, can be friendships, higher ideals, future plans, and it can be lucky. And you can see it's next to the part of fortune. So that points towards the potential for some serendipity this week, which would be really delightful. But if you recall, Mars, the planet of passion, moved into your 11th house last week. And that could ask you to take more of a lead around group activities as an organizer. But you're certainly going to want to feel that you're very much part of any alliance that you're in. But the collective of energy in the sign of Aries is much more reflective, much more sensitive and much more psychological. And that really comes up to an important boil on Friday. However, we also need to be mindful of the two planets in your sign, Jupiter and Uranus, inching closer together. It's going to become exact on the 21st of April. But the key for later this month is when the Sun makes its way into your sign on the 20th, because then it's going to square up to Pluto. Also on the 29th, your ruler Venus squares up to Pluto. So April is going to be a very potent month for you. And what's cooking now is almost like setting in motion, even if it's not entirely obvious, the likely developing energies that point towards the outcome. And you could find by the middle of this week, as Venus forges a quite exquisite link to Neptune, that you could celebrate something with someone that you're very fond of. So if you meet up with a friend or a group of people, you do something that you all collectively enjoy, it could be a really beautiful night. However, equally, Venus and Neptune coming together could see you become very disappointed that somebody isn't quite matching your hopes and expectations. And because Mars moves forwards and applies to Saturn as the week draws to a close, any alliance which isn't working as you would like, where perhaps there is some politics, let's go back to that wheel, the Moon in House 8 squaring with Neptune in 11. If there is anyone you're involved with who tends to be possessive or controlling, that is going to be something you're going to find much more difficult to tolerate as this month goes on. So by the time your ruler moves on Friday into your 12th house, that can start to trigger a much deeper process of reflection. And you're going to be really thinking about, are you on the right track around all sorts of relationships? If you're single, you could feel very, very nostalgic for past family members, past friendships, perhaps even an old flame. But Venus forges a very powerful link to Pluto. The first with Pluto in Aquarius, it's for over 200 years. But that 12th, 10th house energy is really intriguing. Maybe in terms of earning a living, you could find yourself thinking about a role which is not so front of house, if you like. It may not be interacting with the public directly, but that doesn't mean to say that you can't be quite powerful. Funnily enough, Pluto in the 10th house, people who have that natally can end up in the limelight, but don't necessarily choose it. So something big around your work could see you yearning for a role that is more psychologically gratifying for you. But on the same day, the advancing Sun meets the retreating North Node, and the Sun is also inching by the end of this week towards an exact conjunction with the wounded healer Chiron at the start of next week. So all of that 12th house energy is giving you an enormous amount to think about. So as much as we start this week with that brilliant alliance between Venus and the part of fortune, that square between the Moon and Neptune can cause some uncertainties, and Mercury going into retrograde on the first day of this week suggests that you could find yourself being a little bit more anxious or conversely more analytical about certain parts of your situation you're uncertain about. When all the 12th house energy reaches that climax on Friday, and by the weekend Mars connects to Saturn, if something hasn't been working in a big way, whether it's a job, whether it's a friendship, whether it's an interest, you may feel you just have no choice but to withdraw a little bit and really dive deep. And you could dive extraordinarily deep over the next 6 months to try to work out what it is that you really want to be doing. Because when you get to that position later in this month, when the sun moves into your sign, that's going to give you some assets and tools to make some key moves. But it's also going to make you much less tolerant of any politics, especially if you feel someone's trying to hold power over you. That's going to be repeated with Venus squaring up with Pluto as well. So if there is any politics in any relationship, that's really the key theme for this week. And yet the relationships or friendships or connections that are really good and positive, and you can absolutely trust and rely upon, they may be the ones that you're really celebrating. But unfortunately, I feel that there will be quite a stark gap between the two areas. So I feel some people will come through for you strongly. Other situations or people you may start to realize are not working for you, or someone could show you that they're not as trustworthy and sincere, the classic fair weather friend scenario, as you may have previously hoped. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Taurus. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've yet to like, comment, or share any of my videos, I'd be honoured if you did so now. And of course, please subscribe. Have a great week and do take care.